I like that Charlie's got heat, but I also love that it's all getting so under Weeby's skin. Like I haven't seen Weeby eye roll and get upset this much in such a long time.
I think it's because I got a lot going on.
Charlie's got the leash right taut.
He does.
And every yank gets a reaction.
You're right. You're right.
And you know when you have it, that power, that control.
Charlie knows he can use it at will.
Charlie's just building up to the point to where, you know those leashes that have like the little pinch? He's just building up to where I'll just be like, I'm not even going to yank. I won't even yank on you. Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental. From my apartment in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Charlie Davies. Happy November, whatever it is, at whatever time it is. Things are moving so fast in this world of ours that I'm just trying to hold on for dear life. And oh, by the way, Decision Day presented by AT&T comes on Sunday. What's up, boys? We got a big show for you. Guess who we have? We got Jack Price. It is a shame that we don't have Bobby Warshaw here for Jack Price for his initial Extra Time interview. I really think that Bobby should have been a part of that. Jordan Angeli is going to be here. Of course, our friend of friends, Charlie, your compadre in podcasting as well. You can catch her on MLS Assist.
2 Colorado-based guests. Who's our third guest?
Well, come on. She's in Columbus now. We know that.
Fair.
And then Joe Willis is here.
A Denver native.
This is
a Colorado-heavy show.
I had no idea. Did not know where Joe Willis hailed from. But it's going to be a fun show. Decision Day presented by AT&T coming up on Sunday. 3:30 p.m. Eastern. The Eastern Conference goes down. 2 spots up for grabs. 5 teams chasing those 2 spots. Supporters Shield also in the mix. We know the Union and Toronto FC are there. The Crew have dropped out. They lost to Orlando City, so they don't have a chance at that one. And then at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, the Western Conference goes. All 8 spots are locked in, are set. Thanks to Colorado and San Jose's wins on Wednesday night, they have that X next to their name. So sorry to Chicharito and the Galaxy. Sorry to the Vancouver Whitecaps, who, oh, by the way, now have fewer points than the Rapids anyway, despite the Rapids playing 5, 6 less games. We know what's going to go down in the West. And then, of course, after that, the Audi MLS Cup playoffs. They are coming. You can watch the pregame, mid-game, I guess that's what we're calling, mid-game show and the post-game show and on all the MLS channels. Charlie, you're a part of that. Doyle, Kaylin, Susanna. I'm interviewing, I think, you, so I don't know. We'll figure that out as it comes. But look.
Whoa, that's a big opportunity for
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm a little nervous. I don't know if Charlie's going to treat me like Bruce Arena treats some interviewers out there.
I think this is the David Beckham moment for you again.
Yeah.
You're Avi for sure.
Give me 5 minutes and I'm going to post it on Instagram. It's going to be a big thing for me. I hope everybody's doing well out there. I hope mentally you're staying strong. It has been a wild few days. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, gesturing wildly to everything that's happening in our world. It's been crazy. But I want to say, regardless, it's been awesome to see the turnout from Americans, to see Americans go exercise their right. We've really pushed that here on Extra Time for good reason. And I think even more importantly, the players within this league have really taken that flag and run with it. And you've seen between the Philadelphia Union and LAFC and others creating voting sites, all these players, I think 95% of eligible players in MLS registered to vote this year. That is incredible. That's awesome. That's what our society should be about. And so we wait patiently. In the meantime, if you would like to distract yourself, as I have tried to do over the last couple days, the Continental Awards are now open. The nominations are open. So we have a big thread going on the Extra Time Twitter. Jump in there. Nominate the people you think deserve to be nominated. If they're not nominated, we can't consider them to be a finalist. And then in about 8 days, we will vote on all of those and then do our normal award show, which is usually a ton of fun. So before we get to the Rapids, to Jack Price, to Jordan Angeli, to Joe Willis, to the Supporters Shield race, to Sporting Kansas City in the Mailbag. Charlie, I know in the pregame meeting, you have been nonstop yapping at me. Let's hit our Best 11, our Home Depot Best 11s, to try to wrap up what we've seen in this bizarre, crazy COVID year in Major League Soccer. Who wants to go? Charlie, you have yours?
Yeah.
You want to defend your 11?
I'll
Put your boys out there.
Go first. All right.
Who you got?
I'll start from the back. I'm going Matt Turner as my starting goalkeeper.
Make the case, please, because I have Andre Blake personally.
Mm-hmm. Matt Turner, I think, really kept the New England Revolution in matches this year. His stellar play, his command in the box, his distribution. I love what I've seen from him with his growth from last year to this year, and really from the start of his career in 2016 when he was, as a third string keeper and had to work his way up. I just feel like he's at a position where what you're going to get from him every game, aside from the last match against DC United, where I thought he could have made some key saves to keep DC from finding the back of the net. But other than that, I think he's been pretty near perfect as a keeper in Major League Soccer. A guy that exactly what you're going to get. He's great in the air. His shot stopping ability. He's athletic. He can really make that phenomenal save. So that's why I'm giving it to him. But Andre Blake is a close second.
I have Andre Blake because I think Andre this year, we always knew he had all those sort of like upper echelon, pull the ball out of the corner when you don't think anybody could possibly do it sort of talents. But there was always that sort of like on-off switch with Andre. There were mistakes that would pop up often enough that you would be like, the consistency's not there. This year, the consistency has been there throughout, whether you're talking about early in the season when it was quote unquote normal, whether you're talking about MLS is back, whether you're talking about this second iteration. He's been consistent, and he's been, in my opinion, the most excellent keeper in the league. So for me, I'm gonna say Andre Blake is my guy. Where did you stand, Dave?
I had Blake too. I think when you look at it, and I think what you were saying, basically him and Turner net out equal on most things, whether you're looking statistically or just by eye on their consistency, how they change the game, what they do. And so maybe unfairly to Matt Turner, Andre Blake's doing it, and I think he's crucial to the best team in the league right now. And even if they're the second best team in the league, they're still on an echelon, and I think playing with a level of pressure that New England doesn't have. So I think for most things, they're even, and Andre Blake gets it for me in 2020 because of what he's doing for a better team.
Hit me with the back line, Charlie.
I went for a 3-man back line. And so my back line is Walker Zimmerman, Mark McKenzie, and Jonathan Mensah.
It hurts me. I know we got the Bobby Warshaw left back of the year award, or right back, depending on who you want to have for the outside backs. But it hurts me to see the triple center back. All of them are deserving. I will not argue with that. I went with 4 in the back. I have Anton Tinnerholm at right back. I think you have to recognize those guys. And I think, as we've talked about on this show, and Doyle made a great case for it, he's been the best fullback in the league this year. I went Walker Zimmerman and Mark McKenzie, and not just because I wanted to troll you additionally on Jonathan Mensah, who has been immense this year, just because I think those two guys are, maybe I was thinking too much about building a team. Those two guys, to me, are the best complement and the best at quote-unquote what they do in the league. Walker Zimmerman at being like physically above and beyond, but also a communicator, a leader, and technically really good as well too. And then Mark McKenzie, I just think the level that he's had almost throughout the entire season and his ability to change the game with distribution and his ability to read the game, I put him in there. And then I had Hollingshead at left back. So that's my back line. Any beefs there?
Do you think Hollings? Well, I think Hollingshead has done well this year for FC Dallas, but to say that he's best 11 material over a player like Jonathan Mensah, what he's meant to the Columbus Crew, and over a player like Mark McKenzie or Walker Zimmerman, I just think that it's not even close, to be honest, when you look at their success. And I get the whole you want to give love to outside backs because there are a number of teams, most teams that play with 4 in the back and use their outside backs. But I think you're not trying to, when you look at the best 11, it's just the best 11. You're not forming a team. So as far as like what is
in your mind, it's the best defenders. It doesn't matter. If it was 4 right backs, you put 4 right backs.
Right. And if Richie Larea had played a full season and was consistent every game, like when we've seen him at his best, he's in the best 11. No excuses. That 100%. But I think when I look at the best 11, how I make these decisions is over a full season. Have they been a part of 20? If their team has played 21 games, have they played in at least 19 or 21 of them?
So you're going excellence over positionality.
Yeah.
And I respect it. I respect it. And I think that's what most people do, which is why you don't see the outside backs get a ton of appearances. It's like 3 in the last 10 years. It's only the Kamar Lawrences of the world that like, or Justin Morrow, who forced their way in on that excellence. What's your midfield, Charlie?
4 in the midfield. Alejandro Pozuelo, who is for me the MVP right now this year, because Columbus Crew failed to keep that number 1 spot, which I would have given to Jonathan Mensah. Although Andre Blake could get the MVP, every argument in the world to be MVP of Philadelphia, take the Supporters Shield. But Alejandro Pozuelo, Darwin Quintero, Nico Ladero, and Diego Chara.
Darwin Quintero. You don't. So for you, you're not worried about the success of the team.
Yeah,
you're just
they're
saying,
not in the playoffs.
They're not even close.
Nope.
Don't care.
Well, I have Cristian Pavon as one of my front three.
Fair, I do too. So I guess I'm playing devil's advocate on you.
Yeah, I don't have Pavon at all. And Quintero's goal and assist numbers are up there, right? He's top 5, 6 in the league. So that puts you in that territory. But you just look at players who are doing it for teams, I don't even think João Paulo should be in this conversation, but he's playing week in and week out for the Sounders at the top of the Western Conference. I had Jose Martinez in. I think he's been the best defensive midfielder in the league. And
he's been better than Diego Chara.
I do think he's been better than Diego Chara. And I think when you look at Philly, you look at a team that was third in the East last year, and they've had individual improvements from Mark McKenzie, Andre Blake, and Brendan Aronson. Otherwise, how has that team changed? They lost Medunjanin, and they included Martinez. And so Martinez has taken that team to another level, and I think you see it even when Jack Elliott plays well against Columbus, they still lose a step without him. I think Montero and Bedoya have to do more defensive work. So to me, Martinez is the best defensive midfielder in the league. Chara, because of the loss of Blanco and Niashgoda now, Chara to me has kept Portland at that high level to be second or first in the West. And I actually think he's added to his ability to affect the attack this year.
Agreed.
Or at least he's done more work there.
Yeah.
And part
Maybe
of that's to Eric Williamson as well, being able to cover a little bit more. So Chara still gets in to me, but Chara moved from who's the best defensive midfielder, because that's Martinez, to who's the best central midfielder outside of Martinez. And it came down to him and Lodero. And I don't know if it's fair, but I have Jordan Morris on this list, and I thought he was the one for Seattle that got on that list for me. And Chara deserved it, both for his individual play and what he's done to maintain Portland in MLS's back, and now in the regular season, losing the MLS's back MVP and still being one of the two best teams in the West.
I agree with you on Chara. I think he's the thread, and has been for probably years, including Diego Valeri, in the Timbers that keeps them consistent and dangerous. And at the top, or near the top of the Western Conference, challenging for trophy. So I have him, but I had Nico Ladero as my other midfielder. I did not have Jordan Morris on my team because I just think Chris Mueller has been a little bit more consistent. I think Jordan Morris has had, if you're talking about who's had the higher, more impactful, like game-changing moments, who has that ability, I still think that's Jordan Morris. I don't think that's in question. I just don't think Morris has been as consistent for Chris Mueller as Chris Mueller has, and I thought you had to have an Orlando player on this team. And I think he has 10 goals, 6 assists, something like that, and I don't think any of them are PKs, so it's all run of play. His impact has been huge, and then I did have Cristian Pavon in my team. To go to what Charlie's saying, it's about excellence. Cristian Pavon can't help that his team is garbage.
So who else is in your attack? Or those
I had Diego Rossi. I don't have a true center forward. I just didn't think that any of the center forwards in the league this year were
100%.
so above and beyond that threesome, or at least above and beyond Diego Rossi, I guess, as a goal scorer, to put them in. So I didn't have him. Jossi has 11 goals. Robert Barrich has come on, but he hasn't been a consistent presence
best 11, no.
all year. Like, I just didn't. None of those guys inspired me to say best 11.
So I went Diego Rossi, Cristian Pavon, and Jordan Morris. Those are my front three.
Makes sense.
So Raul Ruiz just misses out. Zardes just misses out. So those are the two quote unquote number 9 strikers that you would have in the front three. Chris Mueller, another player, I agree with you, has had a tremendous influence on Orlando. But if I was going to put one player in Orlando into the best 11, it would be Antonio Carlos. And I think he's the player that just misses out being a best 11 defender, just because of Walker Zimmerman's command within that Nashville team. Because I think Mark McKenzie and Mensah are both cemented as best 11 defenders in this league for this year. But Antonio Carlos just misses out because of Walker Zimmerman, what he's been able to do for Nashville in the, off the set pieces and restarts. Alex Ring is another player I think
it was
that
hard
just
to leave him
misses out. I really didn't want to leave him out because of he's just a quality player. He means so much to that New York City FC team. I know we see what Max Morales can do for the team in the attacking half, but Ring is just a complete player. And he can play 5 or 6 positions and be just as good. That's a quality player. I really enjoy watching him play. And Ayo Akinola is another player. If we got to see more of him, he's going to be in the best 11. But we just didn't see enough.
I think that Akinola group I think Raul Ruiz-Diaz fell into the same one, where if he didn't have to go to international and he'd played more games, he probably gets in. And I think there was a few players, and obviously this year has been insane, where it's like if they had been around more, if we'd gotten a little bit more from them.
BWP for me is in that group.
I think Pereira's in that group for Orlando as well. He was in and out of the lineup at times, but he still finished top 5 in assists. He's still like the linchpin to a lot of their attack. I finished with Pozuelo at the 10, Morris and Rossi on the wings, and I put Zardes in as center forward. I think he's been the best center forward. And I think when you watch Columbus, we're going to have Jordan Angeli on in a little bit to talk about it. And I know because I've watched all her broadcasts how she feels. Columbus needs Zelarayan and Nagbe, and they've fallen off the last few games. But before that, they maintained where they were in the East because of Zardes' play. Zelarayan was out hurt, and then Nagbe went out hurt, and they continued to get results up until this last 2 weeks because of Zardes and what he's done at center forward. It's not the prettiest all the time. Not everyone's super jacked about it. He's maybe not a starter on a national team. That's fine. But in MLS production this year, I think Giassi Zardes has been the best center forward.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And you'll probably, if I had to guess, you'll probably see him in this Home Depot Best 11. Because I think a lot of people are going to look at Cristian Pavon and say the Galaxy just aren't good enough. But I thought his level was so high that you just can't leave him out. All right, let's talk about the teams that got in. Colorado Rapids.
Don't you – wait, can I not?
Yeah, go.
Charlie. Because I want to push this to Charlie because I feel like this is a take he'd have. If he's the best player on the team, then they need to be in the playoffs. There are bad teams making the MLS playoffs when one player plays well like that.
Not when you don't have a goalkeeper, when you don't have a back line, and Jonathan Dos Santos has been healthy for maybe half the year, if that. No, absolutely not.
I'm not saying he's MLS MVP.
You talk to any player in the league, any player who plays, they will tell you Cristian Pavon is a top 5 player in this league.
But all those things you just said.
He's a best 11 player because he can beat you in every single way. He can outrun you. He can beat you on the dribble. He can score goals from in the box, out in the box. But at the end of the day, he's the only player that has been a consistent. He tries to do it all by himself because LA Galaxy were hopeless this year. Hopeless.
But all the things you're saying were true about Nacho Piatti, and he made the playoffs with his team. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you that the Galaxy are a tire fire. And I think Pavon.
You have to have structure. Galaxy don't have structure. It's literally the wild, wild west. Go out and play. There is no identity. We're not trying to attack a team a certain way. We're not trying to have a style of play. We see.
But he's 25 years old. He's not 21. Okay. At some point, and it's not all on him. The roster's a mess. Mm-hmm. Where's your leadership? What are you doing to make this team better? Besides you playing well and playing hard by yourself on the wing.
My point would be he literally dragged them to the only results they got. Like, he grabbed this team by the scruff of the neck and was like, I'm the only one who's doing much anything, and we're going to get there. And it just didn't last because it's just one guy. So
maybe,
look,
or if he could have done it more often. No, I would say this.
There are some consistency issues. I will give you that.
He is the number 1 player to watch in MLS, which is why it sucks he's on the Galaxy, because they are tough to watch. If you told me who you're going to tune in for across the entire league, he's number 1. But if he did it at a best 11 level for a guy on that team, they'd be in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Let's talk about the Rapids in San Jose before we get to Jack Price and talk about what Colorado has gone through this season and where they have ended up. The Rapids win 1-0 in Portland. All that talk about points per game, I mean, it still matters. It's seeding, but it's kind of moot because now they have one more point than do the Vancouver Whitecaps, who are eliminated officially, as are the LA Galaxy. Colorado Rapids handling business. San Jose handling business against LAFC 3-2. I am a little sad today. I'm just a little heartbroken seeing those photos of Wondo, like wandering around the Avaya Stadium pitch with like a cell phone and a bottle of water. That feels like a guy saying goodbye because the Earthquakes are not going to play a home game in the Audi MLS Cup playoffs. Is this it for Wondo? Do we think the writing's on the wall? Like, I don't want it to be on the wall. I want the petition that's apparently going to go around. I want to sign that like 50 times. But is this it? What do you think? Tough question.
You're going to push it to me, Charlie? You're the one who's been in those shoes. Yeah. I don't know. I'm on the side. I think there's a chance he comes back the way this year happened. And I also think he didn't want to hang on too long, but he's still producing. So if he physically thinks he's there, and he said it on this show during the COVID layoff or during MLS Back, whenever it was, this wasn't the last year he imagined. And so I don't know. I think there's a chance he comes back.
I think it just comes down to his body. Just physically, mentally, does he feel worn out, or does he feel he still has more to give? And if he can recover, if the physical side is not a problem for him, like it is for a lot of guys who get up there. For me personally speaking, if I played a match, it took me 4 or 5 days to recover. And if you're in a system or you have a coach who expects you to train at 100% every single day, and doesn't give you kind of that the lenience that you would expect for an older veteran who's logged a lot of minutes and miles on their legs over the years, then you got to know when to hang them up. And a player like Chris Wondolowski, he's still contributing. Like Gus said, if you know you can still get in there and score goals and do it, there's no need to hang him up. Then if you can recover, if you're physically able to do it, you can go out there and score goals. He's still doing it when he gets the opportunity. I want to see him play one more year as well.
I would like to see it. They're going to be in the playoffs. We'll see how it goes. They're going to fight for some seeding here. You've got Colorado at Houston this weekend. And then you've got San Jose doing their thing at Seattle. So you got to say the at Houston is a better scenario for the Rapids, and they're also ahead. The Rapids could actually push their way in, depending on the results, I think into a home game in the Western Conference, which is crazy to talk about. What have you seen, Dave? What happened? I mean, like, this whole conversation about points per game, it's moot. It's over. They did this on their own accord. They fought through a month plus of being off the field, dealing with our unenviable, let's just use that word, and it's like the slow play of the situation, circumstances. What have the Rapids proven?
Well, I think they showed the team that they were when the layoff started, in that they had just won 5-0. They were a team that had momentum. And I think, unfortunately, because I love Kai Kamara, they found their formula in that Diego Rubio falls off the front line. He's got a weird herky-jerky game, but he's able to create. They've got wingers in Benazet, in Lewis, in Nomley when he plays there, who can come inside and create chances. They've got a ton of confidence for their fullbacks to get forward. They started to attack games a little more, I think, where at the beginning of the season, we saw them kind of sit in more than maybe we expected. And I think, or at least the MLS's back tournament, I think part of that was the altitude was going to be a factor in the way they played. And then they didn't have that, and you were coming off a layoff, and who are you? I think they found their formula to who they are. And we talked about it a few weeks ago. Cole Bassett at the 10 is a big part of that, because they don't need a 10 who's a passenger who's only trying to hit that last pass. They need energy there. They need someone who can come out so Kellen Acosta can fill that space, as we saw last night, and he can create opportunities that Lewis can come in field or Nomley can play in the middle. And so Bassett gives you all of that, which fits with the weird pieces that they have. But all of it together is an impressive team. And I think they know who they are also from the roster now, top to bottom. And that gives confidence to young players. I think Sam Vines, I think Bassett, I think Lewis, they know the minutes they'll get. They know the opportunities they'll get. Rubio as well. And you've seen them kind of, rather than relax on that, take the confidence from Robin Fraser and push.
All right, it's time now for an AT&T 5G call to the field. The captain, Jack Price of the Colorado Rapids. Jack, what's up? Welcome to Extra Time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, all good. Yeah, how yourself? Yourselves are good?
Yeah, we're good. We're not in the playoffs. We don't have like a dog in that race. We just talk about it. But you are in the playoffs. It's been a crazy year. How does that feel?
Amazing. Yeah, delighted for the club, delighted for the boys, coaching staff, everyone involved. Really, it's been, like you say, a tough year for everyone, and we feel like we deserve it, and they're on a form this season, and we're delighted to be there.
So we will talk about what all happened with you, and everybody knows the long layoff for COVID-19 reasons. I'm sure that was difficult personally and professionally. But I want to go back to sort of the big decision that had everybody talking for a while a couple weeks ago, which is the shift from points to points per game. What were you thinking before that shift was made? What were you thinking when it was made? And what do you think of teams and coaches and clubs that say, that's not the right way to do it?
Obviously, we were delighted it went to points per game. It sort of helped us with the amount of games we've played. But at the same time, if it didn't, as I look at the table now, we're still in there on points. So I understand some teams might think it's unfair because we've played 4 or 5 games less than them. But, it was a situation we were dealt with, which wasn't fair as well. So we would have played a few games if other teams would have wanted to come and play us. So it wasn't just that we didn't have these games scheduled. So I think it's fair. I think we just had it down as players and as a club that we need to pick as many points up as possible. And see where it takes us. And thankfully, since we've come back from the break, we've picked up a couple of good wins, and that's been enough to get us over the line.
Can we take you back 2 months or a month and a half and walk us through what this experience has been like for you and what your mindset was, what the group, how the group has operated? Because you guys have come out and won these, 2 games the last week. How is it that you were able to do that after what you've been through?
Mentally, it was tough, especially personally. I've got a young boy now. He's 11 months old, so it was tough not being able to leave the house for a while. And me and my girlfriend, we struggled a bit, but professionally, you have to get on with it. You have to do what you do what you have to do to keep fit. And we did that as a team. The first game we had back with Kansas was always going to be tough. We hadn't played for a month. They were in a good run of form, all that sort of stuff. But as a team, we ground it out. We were dogged, doing individual training again, which was tough. No one wants to do that. You go from team training to individual in a few days, and it wasn't nice. But we knew the end goal was to get into the playoffs, and we got our mindset that we have to do when we get back. We have to be ready, and we were. But like you say, it was definitely tough.
So you're out for an extended amount of time. You come back, you get smacked by Sporting KC 4-0. You lose to Minnesota the next game, but then it seems like you found your rhythm against Seattle Sounders at home. How did you get back to feeling game fit, match fitness? What was that process like? And now do you feel like you guys are back to where you should be?
Yeah, like you said, that Kansas game was always going to be tough. Like I say, I hadn't played for a month. It was getting the game feel back in the legs and getting that feeling again. And Minnesota, we felt like we deserved something. We played quite well. We were getting better each day. We could see that fitness-wise, tactically, all that sort of stuff. And like I say, we dominated Seattle, especially second half. We were great. They're one of the best teams in this league, arguably. So we can just see ourselves getting better and better and back to where we were when we left off with San Jose when we beat them 5-0 at home. So we knew what we had to do and what we had to get to be at that level again. And, we're there now and we're in a great run of form going into the playoffs. So we couldn't have asked for a better time really to be hitting form.
So we mentioned that KC game and coming off the layoff. I'm wondering, and you'd know this, and Charlie would know this better than I do. You played well in the second half against Seattle, a late win against Portland. Do you think maybe there's more energy in you guys because of that layoff and not playing those games? Do you feel at the end of games like you guys are working harder or maybe feeling more comfortable than your opponents?
I mean, I didn't feel that at the end of 90 minutes yesterday. On
that
it was tough. It's tough going on that stuff. But no, you're right. That month probably has helped us. Other teams haven't had that break, which it's unfortunate we had it, but at the same time, it probably is fortunate we've had it because we get to have 3 weeks where we can focus on tactical stuff and have Zoom calls with the gaffer and stuff. So it's been good. But yeah, I think we're fresh going into this. We've got obviously Houston on Sunday, and then we have 12 days till they start. So we're going to have another little break, and hopefully we can just keep the momentum going Sunday and be ready to go.
That's the physical side, Jack. And the mental side of this, I think, is probably the bigger burden. And we've all dealt with it. Everybody in our society, everybody around the world has. You have your young son, you have your girlfriend, you're in a place that's not quote-unquote home for you, though maybe it is by now. Tell me what the mental side of this was like for you. How did you get through this? What went through your mind?
It was certainly tough. Like I say, we go back to like the individual training. We had to go running on parks and stuff. And if you're not mentally, mentally not prepared or right, and you don't have that mental thought of like, I need to do this for myself, because when we get back, we're going to have to hit the ground running. And it was tough for a lot of boys. We've got a young team. So for them, it must have been tough. I'm experienced enough now to know what my body needs. But some of the boys, it's certainly tough. We go from playing well and then having that just shut down and going back to 2 weeks quarantine, which wasn't good for anyone. But like I say, the coaching staff were great. We were on Zoom calls every other day doing tactical stuff and just get it into the boys' minds that where we were. And thankfully we got back to winning ways the last couple of weeks. But yeah, no, it was certainly tough, especially with, like you say, a family and that. But they've been great. Lauren supported me throughout the whole thing. It's not been easy for them either, for her especially, not seeing family all year. And I couldn't thank them enough for how supportive they've been for me.
I was reading. Oh, hold on, Chuck. Just a little one here, because I was reading in The Athletic about the bizarre stuff you guys were having to do. You're doing like video sessions on the field at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. I mean, this is completely an outlier for you professionally. This has to be so weird at times.
It's so strange, but like you say, everyone's going through this in life. It's not just us as playing football. It's it's everyone's jobs across the world. It's just the life we live in now, and it's unfortunately it's strange, but yeah, you adapt, and we've got, like you say, a young team that just takes information in and uses it, and thankfully we have a team like that. And I couldn't have been more proud of the whole club, the way they dealt with the situation. It's not been easy for them from the top either, so very thankful.
Jack, you talk about a young team, right, inexperience, but also the coaching staff with all these Zoom calls. Can you talk about Robin Fraser and what he's done to kind of put your team in this position from a coaching standpoint? What has he really worked on to help you guys play to your potential?
He's incredible. Honestly, I couldn't speak highly enough of the gaffer. I think we can all see that with the results and performances, the way he likes us to play. But as a person, he's someone you want to play for. He puts an arm around you when it's needed. He'll be stern when he has to. But like you say, with these Zoom calls, he goes into every little detail, whether that's on and off the ball. And we do our best to play at a high level for him because we want him to do well. And he is one of the best managers I think I've played under some great managers, but he's up there for me with his detail. We've got Embers, who's the same, Chris Sharp, he's been in the league for a while. He knows how to grind out results in this league, and their experience has been huge, especially even players like me who haven't been in the league long. They know what it takes, and I couldn't speak highly enough of the gaffer, the way he gets us playing every week. And he's one of those blokes that, I don't know if you know him personally, but he's such a great guy, and you just want to do your best for him.
Oh, yeah. We know Robin. Great guy. Let's talk about your journey. That's what I'm calling it, man. 2018, you come to Colorado, Major League Soccer. 2019, we talked about it a lot on this show. You guys were maybe the worst team results-wise in the league. Certainly, okay, fine. You were the worst team results-wise in the league.
You got that.
And then all of a sudden,
sugarcoat it.
Then it was like, we were just rooting for you the rest of the year. This has to have been like a roller coaster of epic proportions for you. What has it been like?
It's been crazy. Like you say, 2018 was a bad year. We weren't a good team. The start of 2019, again, we were rubbish. We weren't good. We ended the year well. We were a bit gutted that we had such a poor start because we felt like we would have gone into the playoffs and done well with the run we were on towards the end of the season when obviously Robin came in. And obviously this year with the COVID and all that situation, it's not been easy, but it's been a great 3 years for me. A learning experience, playing in a different country. Playing with new players and against top players, and around the league. But like you say, it's been a journey, and it's not going to end yet. We've got plenty more in the tank to come.
We've talked about your young team and the players you've played with and against, and you're the senior statesman in midfield. But Cole Bassett, we're all very excited about the young guy in front of you. What do you see from his game, from him as a person? Where do you see his ceiling, and what do you think he's going to do in his career?
Cole's a great kid. I think the most important thing for me is how hard he works for the team. He's level-headed. He probably thanks his parents for that because he's not too big-headed. He doesn't get ahead of himself. And honestly, that lad he could play in Europe, no problem. I've got no issue with him going there and playing for one of the biggest clubs in Europe. He's that good. And he probably doesn't, over the first couple of years, it was tough for him adapting, physically with the league. It's a physical league. But now he's there. He's ready to compete at the top, I think. And we're lucky to have him. We'd love him to stay on and have a great Rapids career, but it's his career. He deserves to go in and play at the top, and I have no doubt Cole will be one of the biggest American stars in the world.
Tell me about what you see specifically when you watch him play. The strengths that you're trying to play to when you're finding him with the ball, or you see his runs off the ball. What are the things that you think? Oh, okay, that is a really high level. It's
awareness. His awareness to pick up good spots, like you say, for me to find him. He's even getting good at set pieces as well, getting on the end of them, which is helping me. I think his overall work rate is phenomenal. He runs 12, 13K every 3 days in games at the moment. It's incredible to see. Of course, he's young; he can do that. But I just have so much time for him as a person. He's a young kid, but he's got so much experience under his belt already, playing with the likes of Tim Howard. Taking experience from him, myself, Drew, all these players now, and I can just see him every year growing and growing, but growing as a person as well. He's such a top kid, and I can't wait for him to show everyone else what he can do on a world stage.
So we're gonna have the Rapids in our eye when the Audi MLS Cup playoffs come around. MLS's back tournament didn't go maybe the way that you would have wanted. I see the grimace.
Yeah.
What did you maybe learn from that experience, as again bizarre as it was, that you can apply to these playoffs? And what is it about single elimination? Let's just call it a cup format. What separates teams that go far and teams that crash out?
I think towards your last point there about the teams that go far in the MLS playoffs, it's form and it's momentum going into it. Ever since I've been here, everyone said you need to be in good form going into the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you make the playoffs in July and then your form dips, because that's not good. So we're at a point now where we're getting better each week. So for that, we're looking like we're going to be strong in this, and we fancy ourselves to play against anyone. Like you say, we beat Seattle, we beat Portland. Not easy teams to play against, and we've gone and dominated them. So that side of it, we feel like we're in a good place. But with the Orlando tournament, it wasn't good. But we realised from that we need to bring it every game. We can't turn up and expect to beat. Like, we played Salt Lake first game there, and I think we rolled up with a little bit of confidence. We'd won 2 games earlier in the season. We thought maybe we were just going to roll them over, and we can't do that. We're not a team that has a Carlos Vela. We can't just turn up and expect him to do stuff. We play as a team, and that's what I love about us. We're a strong unit, and we need everyone to be at it.
So who taught Keegan Rosenberry some technique on that finish? Was that you, or?
I don't know where he's pulled that from. To be fair to Keegan, he's got good technique, and he usually thrashes them over the bar or something. But no, he's got that in the locker. He just needs to be a bit more confident in front of goal around the edge of the box, because he's got it. I've seen him when he was at Philly score a couple of bangers, so he's certainly got it. But no one expected him to do that on Sunday.
I don't see the fresh fade on you, so I don't think you're letting him touch the hair. Before we let you go, it's got a nice shape to it.
It's been a while.
Tell me about Colorado before we let you go. I mean, I love the Denver area. I love the state. What do you do?
Seems like you're pretty settled.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do?
Pretty Rapids for life right now.
Yeah, with the beard and that, people say I fit in perfectly. So it's a great place to live. It's sunny. Even now I look outside, it's blue sky. It's perfect. There's lovely, nice spots. Hiking, mountains, all this. My family's happy, so I'm happy. That's what I usually go off. And if they're there to support me, and that, so be it. If they decide that it's not now, it's not now. But no, I'm really happy to be here. The club's been great for me, as well as the whole the whole place, Denver, Colorado. It's been great, and I'm looking forward to many more years here.
How many flannels do you own?
2.
Just on rotation, just every other day, just back and forth. Into the playoffs they go. Colorado Rapids fighting for seeding on Decision Day, presented by AT&T. The captain, Jack Price. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that, fellas. Thank you very much. You take care.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Jack Price for joining us. A lot to play for out west. Mostly all seeding, because there's no shield, there's no open playoff spots. Just trying to figure out what that shuffle is going to look like, what the round 1 matchups in the Audi MLS Cup playoffs are going to look like. Before we get to Jordan Angeli here, let's talk about the Supporters Shield. We've really beaten this one home in the last couple weeks, so I didn't feel like we wanted to lead with it, but it has to be talked about. A major trophy. It still feels like to me that it's going to be the Union, but Charlie the Revs, that's a pretty difficult matchup. Meanwhile, on the other side, Toronto FC, they're going to be, at the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, when you look at the Revolution side, they're getting Carlos Heel back to full fitness finally. Gustavo Bo back from injury. You have Lee Wynn, Teal Bunbury getting a brace. You have a lot of these players who are finally getting back to full fitness, and Bruce Arena has a full team ahead of him. Still same concerns. Central midfield pairing behind Carlos Heel, behind the number 10, where you had Lee Wynn come in, who has done well since he's come back. But you have Scott Caldwell, Matt Polster, Tommy McNamara, Kellen Rowe. For me, that's still the concern for this Revolution side when you're talking about the spine from front to back.
Is it concern defensively, in possession, or both?
Defensively, dealing with second balls, dealing with tackling, getting pulled out of position. Who's going to be that presence and be the force in the midfield to lock down that spot, protect the back four? No one has really took a claim and said, you know what, this is for me. I'm gonna be responsible for organizing, making sure I'm that shield in front of the back four. So Philadelphia Union, they haven't lost at home. They're 8-0 when playing at home this year. Well, Revolution have matched up well. If you look at the past 3 matches, a draw and then back-to-back 2-1 losses. The Philadelphia Union have given the Revs 2-1 losses back-to-back. So yes, the Revolution match up well against them, but I think this one, again, the Union playing for the Supporter Shield at home, everything points to them getting a result.
You got to get it done for the Union.
Yep.
You got to get it done. It's come down to this point. Like, this is the story of the Philadelphia Union and trophies over years. And this, to me, is, personally, I think this is bigger than the Open Cup. The Open Cup runs for them were moments in seasons where they were sort of a middle-of-the-pack club, and they were able to focus on it because they weren't thinking about things like the Supporters' Shield. They weren't thinking about something bigger and longer and requiring more consistency. It was a run that they could make at home to try to make history. Well, this is a little bit different. Like, if you get to this now and you fall short in this moment when Brendan Aronson's going to go and maybe Mark McKenzie's going to go and your project has come to fruition and everybody's talking about you and you're believing in yourself, if you lose the match, it's not like any of that's gone, but it's just kind of this hole in your gut. And they know about that hole. Jim Curtin knows about that hole. I think that the Union, as you talked about, this is a decent matchup for them in central midfield because Brendan Aronson is so good at moving around and pulling those midfielders he plays with and popping up in difficult spots and then turning and making quick, decisive decisions, whether that be passing the ball or going for it himself. And I think Jamiro Montero is in the same vein. I just look at this and I think if Toronto gets it, it's like the old slow and steady. It's almost like what the Seattle Sounders do. Like, we just have more quality than everybody else. We're going to stack the results. And when it comes time for crunch time, we're the ones that answer the gut check. So let's get to it. The MLS Predict 6, presented by BetMGM, pick of the week for us. Philadelphia, New England, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Who you got? Who's winning this thing, Charlie? People can watch this on Big ABC. Everybody can see it. Pull out the antenna. Get the bunny ears going.
They don't have Andre Blake. And that's the big problem for Philadelphia.
Is that the difference?
That is the difference. And Kasper Shabilko and Sergio Santos, you're not 100% certain that Kasper Shabilko is going to turn up every game and be a reliable goal scorer. Yeah, he's shown he can score goals, but that's the problem for this Philadelphia side. Outside of Andre Blake not being there, which is a massive problem, because if you watch the last match, probably both goals are saved by Andre Blake. Okay. I think the Revolution stunned Philadelphia Union.
Loss or a draw?
I was really leaning towards 2-2, but I think I talked myself into a 3-2 win for the Revolution.
Wow, where are you going, Dave? Is this a shield for the Union?
No, I'm on Charlie's side.
No.
I'm thinking 2-2. I think the game relies on Sergio Santos. If he had finished the opportunities, and a lot of that was Eloy Room against Columbus, then Philly already had it. So it's the same this week because, to Charlie's point, they'll give up opportunities. Bendick's not Blake. They don't have Martinez as well. They'll give up chances to this Revs team. If Santos comes out and plays the way he did against Toronto FC, Philadelphia Union will win the Shield. If he plays the way he did against Columbus, then I don't think that's the case. So I think they'll give up a couple goals. I think it's going to be a tie, and then I think Toronto goes and wins it in New York. So I'm picking a draw in this
guy. Come on, Duke, baby. I got to go for it. I want this for the Union. I want it for them. And so whether or not I believe, and I do actually believe in this case, that they'll just get it done. I think you have enough guys in this team that have been through it before that have felt that there'll be an extra edge. And Joe Bendick's going to, I hope, the edge is going to be, I'm going to make up from last game and not, oh crap, last game was really tough. I hope I don't do that again. I think they get this win. I think they get the Shield. They've already got the CONCACAF Champions League spot, by the way, because Toronto FC can't qualify via the Shield. They can only do so via the Canadian Championship. So the Union are into the CCL, but I think they get that Shield.
I hope for them. Their fans deserve it. They've suffered for a number of years. So now they have a team that is fully deserving to take that Shield, especially after the performances this year. So I hope that they do, but I have my doubts.
All right, we've been talking about the Western Conference and the Rapids. Let's go to somebody who has a little Rapids connection, but she's the voice of the crew now, Jordan Angeli. What's up, Jordan? It's an AT&T 5G call to the field. We're glad to have you. You and Chuck, we know you have a special relationship. Your podcast friends, of course, we listen to you on MLS Assist as well. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I know, connections all over. Weeby, you and I really are the only one that haven't had a connection because Goss and I did some games down in Vista. So here we are.
You know, a long time ago when you could fly on planes and go
when
places
you could fly on
in the
planes.
world.
Actually, Weeby, I'm going to give it to you because last summer I was on Extra Time with you guys. I was in France. I remember exactly where I was at talking to U.S. Women's National Team. So Look at us. We're all friends.
I know. Look at us. Look at us. Let's talk about the crew to start here.
Look at us.
Yeah, you have Paul Rudd, Kansas guy. Just want to throw that out there for everybody listening.
Giving away cookies in Brooklyn right now. He's literally Weeby.
That's the best compliment you've ever given me. I'm blushing right now. I feel like, you know what? I'm like embarrassed that you even said that, but I appreciate it so much. Let's talk about the crew. It was going really well. It's not going as well. Why is it not going quite as well right now, Jordan?
That's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, to be honest. And last night after the game, so we actually call our road games in Cleveland at the studio. So we have a 2-hour drive home after the game. And last night's game was a tough one for me to swallow, and kind of looking back over the last couple of months, trying to evaluate what's been difficult for the crew. And one of the most challenging things is the players that were brought in to really change the squad have not been with the squad. Aloy Room, Darlington Nagbe, Lucas Zelarayan. And when you start to try to plug in other players, and I think credit to the crew that they were still third in the Eastern Conference without all those players for about 2 months. I think that it was a challenging moment, but they figured out a way to get points when they needed to. But the thing that I think is hard for the crew is when they're in control and they can get possession of the ball and really manipulate numbers, like we saw in MLS's back, like we saw at the beginning of the return, they really can put teams under pressure, and that really boosts their confidence. And I think what we've been seeing in these last couple of months is when they're not quite in that control with the possession, their confidence can falter a little bit. And I think for me, the first thing that I think they need to take care of, and we're seeing in the last 2 games, is just their ability to play out of the back, is making the correct decisions in the correct time to allow you to gain that confidence in who you are, because they are a good team playing out of the back, but also knowing that you don't have to do it every single time. And I think they're just putting a little bit too much extra pressure on themselves to be this team who's willing to play every single time out of the back. So there also is a little grit. Did you guys notice that last night? I felt like with Orlando, you could see there's a little extra edge with this team. And I think for the crew, now they have everybody back. There's no excuses with personnel. Sunday's going to be a statement game, I think, as to can you perform the way that this team can perform, but also can you add that extra edge of, like, I don't want to say nastiness, but like that confidence, that cocky, that swag, like I think they need a little bit more of that going on.
Jordan, I totally agree with you that when healthy, and I've picked them a number of times to do everything, and they kind of like to let me down, Columbus is as competitive as anyone in MLS. My question is, sometimes I tune in when Zelarayan or Nagbe or Zardes it out, and it feels like, let's just plug Pedro Santos in and he'll do the same thing as Zelarayan. Let's just plug Nemeth in. He'll do the same thing as Zardes. Do you worry at all that Caleb Porter, maybe because he built something that does work, when those pieces aren't there, he sticks too close to what he thinks his best team can be and isn't really flexible enough to just get the results?
I think that there is, when you're building a team, you want to make sure your identity as a team is there. And if you look around teams in the league, like LAFC, when they're flying, right? And even now, their identity isn't that much different. It's just those connections are off. If you look at Orlando, they have an identity of how they want to play. And yeah, they can tweak it a little bit when those players aren't in. And I think that's what happens in Columbus, is Caleb tweaks it a little bit. When he doesn't have 2 players that can play both in the channel and the pocket as wingers, he's willing to change up how they're building out of the back and just allow those wingers to be more stretch guys with Derek Etienne and Boateng when they come in. Whereas I think ultimately Caleb wants to play with pocket wingers and have those players who can be maybe an additional number 10 when Zelarayan and Pedro Santos are in there connecting with each other. And that gives room for Valenzuela to get up the wing and really be a contributor as an outside back going forward. So I think he does change things. And I think it does change the tenacity of the team at times. When you don't have Nagbe in there and you bring in Aiden Morris, he's been a player that's come in and had a little bit more of that grit. And I think it's crazy to say this, but I think in sometimes I feel like that's a really good example for him to set as such a young player with a little bit of, he's raw. He's kind of coming in and just trying to make things happen. And it boosts the team at times. And I want some of the team around him to take a little bit of that Aiden Morrisness and bring it and infuse it in how they play. Even when it's beautiful, it can also be gritty a little bit.
When you look at this Eastern
Guys,
Conference,
deep comment section take. Aiden Morris is the best Morris in MLS.
Oh, that is deep. Wow. Yeah, get out of here. You're gonna have the Sounders fans coming at you. Top of the East. Top of the East. We feel pretty confident about the top of the East. The West is a completely different matter entirely. You got the Union fighting for the Shield, Toronto doing the same, and then Orlando has moved up and seems to have locked in that third spot ahead of the Crew. And then I would even say that NYCFC is like dangling on the outside, and the Crew are peeking over the top of the fence. How do you see the hierarchy in the East, and how do you compare the East to the West? Because this has been sort of a heated topic in our comment section in Mailbag. We said the East is way better, and people got mad.
Yeah, I think the East has been more consistent with those teams that you were just mentioning. I think Toronto's had a little bit of trouble as of late, but Philadelphia has been good. New England has been like steadily getting better, I feel like. Whereas if I look at the West, I'm thinking Seattle's been one of the top teams as far as consistently. Portland has had some bumps, and then I feel like SKC is a team that I think if playing against a little bit more of these top guns in the East, we can really get a sense of who the West is. But maybe it's because I'm in the East and I'm watching a lot of games with these teams in the East, but I really do think that the quality of soccer, especially when you're going Toronto, Philly, Orlando, Columbus, New York City, the way they're playing, like that's 5 teams. I'll throw New England in there, Charlie. Give me a break. Those 6 teams at the top of the East, the top of the East are consistently adding to their level, I think, and maybe with the exception of the Crew, because I don't feel like they've been adding to that level here as of late.
Tell me about the Fire, though. Sorry, Dave, I cut you off.
No, I was going to say the same thing. Let's stop that playoff line.
Yeah, the Fire. Wow, what an interesting team, you guys.
What's interesting mean right there? Yeah. Is that like interesting train wreck? Is that like interesting like
I watch them play, and some of the things I see with the Chicago Fire are my favorite buildups or my favorite attacking moments that I see in the league with Gaston Jimenez and what he can do, and Madron and Aliseda and how they move off the ball and their wingers come in. And I feel like they just change their line so much. It makes it really difficult on the opposing team. But I feel like they just can't keep a result, which is so hard for me. Like, what do you guys see with them? What is that? Are they built to be that attacking team who's going to maybe leak goals? Orlando leaks goals, right? But they still manage to figure out a way to score at least 2 a game to get victories. I don't know. Chicago's just like,
I wouldn't say Orlando leaks goals.
I mean, they give up 1 goal pretty much every game.
Yeah, but
so I wouldn't say leaks. I think that is. I'm just saying Chicago, if they give up goals, they have to score more, but they can't figure out a way to only give up 1 goal.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Rafa Vicky has done a fantastic job of building this Chicago Fire team, and it's his first season. But defensively, they have so many problems. 1v1 defending, the movement, the shifting. Bobby Shuttleworth is one of the more consistent keepers that I've seen across Major League Soccer, but he's not going to make any phenomenal, outstanding saves that's going to keep them in matches and get them 3 points. So you have to be able to defend inside your box, and Chicago Fire doesn't do a good job of that. So I think just because of that reason, they're not really a threat in the Eastern Conference. If they make the playoffs, that's fantastic. That's a great I think you look at what Rafa Vicky's been able to do, and you just say, that's phenomenal. That was the objective, I think, for Chicago Fire. You give yourselves a pat on the back and you move forward next season. But when I look at the Eastern Conference, I think it just comes down to, the top 3 teams, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Orlando. I think those are the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference because they are just so complete. They're consistent. And as good as Columbus are at times, you're not going into the playoffs feeling good in a rhythm. And I think we've seen this every year. No matter how good you are, if you're not going into the playoffs fit and in form, you're not going to usually end up where you want to be.
TBD on the Crew, though. TBD. I'm going to call it the Francisco Calvo theorem, and we coined that a couple shows ago. It's basically the guarantee that you're going to have 1 or 2 mental switch-offs. You're going to have 1 or 2 individual errors, and I'm not saying Francisco's the only one making these errors because it goes across the board for the Fire, and that's going to cost you points. It's not just them either. They had multiple chances last night against Minnesota, like dunks, tap-ins that they're putting over, that they're missing, that they're handballing on the line for no reason. Like it's a team that I love to watch because it is interesting, as you said, but it's a team that I would hate to support for emotional reasons right now because it feels like they tear your heart out all the time. Inter Miami, those supporters are just figuring out what they've got. What do they have, Jordan? Because I don't know what works for them. We can't figure them out.
Yeah. It is. They are such a quizzical team for me because I'm like, you look at their roster at Inter Miami and who they have, and it seems like the pieces should fit, and it should fit together in a better way that it has. And I actually made this comparison on MLS Assist the other day. Is I feel like Inter Miami has all these shiny pieces, and Nashville was like tried and true. We're going to get the people that we know can play in MLS. We're going to build from the back up and make it solid. And from that solidity, then we can add a little bit when the time comes. But I think that Miami looked at it the other way. Can we be a little bit more flashy? And they didn't build from their defense back and had to bring in center back pieces in the middle of the season and try to reshift the way that they were thinking defensively. And it just hasn't seemed to click yet. And I think for me personally, I always look at teams and how you're building teams. I think teams that are built on defensive principles first, then you have the ability to build off of that. And it gives freedom to the attackers to have this ability to go and feel the game instead of feeling like they are always worried about what's next.
In your mind, Jordy, who is ready for an upset? Who is going to be the shock team of the playoffs?
The shock team of the playoffs. Well, you just talked about this, Charlie. So teams that are winning games right now, I don't know, you guys, Colorado Rapids looking a little refreshed from, and a little upset, I would imagine, from what has happened and feeling like they were counted out. And now they get a lifeline here. We've won 2 pretty important games. And to me, you just said you want to be peaking at the right time, winning games, feeling like you have some momentum. So I would see, if I'm in the West, I wouldn't want to play the Rapids. If I'm in the East, I wouldn't want to play New York City.
So let me ask the question everyone wants to know. Columbus, Colorado Rapids, MLS Cup final. Who's Jordan Angeli cheering for?
Oh, my.
Under pressure. This is what we do at Extra Time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You know, I got to go with the crew.
Whoa. Whoever pays the checks, that's right.
You know, we just talked to Jack Price. If we would have known, we would have said to him, look, Jordan not going for you guys anymore.
Jordan got rid of her Birkenstocks and her socks. She doesn't have the pickup anymore. She's all Columbus.
I never owned Birkenstocks. Get out.
Just pan down a little bit. Pan down so we can see the shoe rack. We just want to make sure at this point. Confirm. Confirm for us. All right, before we let you go here, everybody go listen to MLS Assist. Who is your favorite player to watch in MLS this year? The person that you're just like, you know what? It's just fun to see them play soccer.
Gosh, there's been so many really interesting imports, I think. And I think I like this person because it's not really someone that is always flashy, but he does really good work, is Jose Martinez for Philadelphia. I played a holding midfield for a while. I love that position. And that's exactly what I was just talking about, giving the stability for the players in front of him to do what they can do best, which is interchange and be really tough to defend because of their ability to change the lines. And Jose Martinez, I was a little worried at first. Thought he might get like 85 red cards this year in only 22 games, but he's really honed that in and has that intensity, but also has the ability to get out of situations. And so I think if I'm talking new imports, I'm going to say Jose Martinez.
I like that. Yeah. Bootstraps. All right. Tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah. You guys can follow me at Jordan Angeli on Instagram, Twitter, all the things. And you can watch me on Columbus Crew broadcast.
Exactly.
Listen to me on the U.S. Soccer podcast with Charlie Davies.
Oh my God, it's everywhere. And MLS Assist, like where isn't it at this point? Jordan,
I just want to say I won't listen to the U.S. Soccer one because I don't want to hear more Charlie. But I'll listen to the other things.
They have a mute Charlie button. So.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
we
I want
need to get on that. That's an innovation that we
athlete.
should be producing. Anders, please help us out with that. Jordan,
they're gonna
thank
need
you
it. They're gonna need it for the end of this podcast.
Yeah, I thought you were going to drop an SKC take, Jordan. I thought you were going to go Sporting KC.
Yeah,
no,
I'm about to roast Weeby.
Yeah, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you.
Good luck, everybody. You guys enjoy that. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jordan. Always glad to have Jordan on the show. Still glowing from the Paul Rudd comparison. Got some cookie dough in the freezer here. I got to go put that out and start handing them out around Brooklyn. 5 teams trying to get 2 spots in the Eastern Conference. Montreal are in 9th currently. Chicago Fire in 10th. They, they blew it in Minnesota. They had a win. This is the story of their season. They ended up with a draw. They got 23 points. So did the Impact, both on 1.05
Did you guys do instant
points per game.
replay today?
We didn't.
Okay.
We didn't do it. They didn't have us do it. What do you think? Was it a... But by the way, Marcelo Balboa just texted me, and he said, quote, buddy, that was a handball and a half, in reference to the Timbers-Colorado match.
Yeah.
Bill Tulioma hitting him in the hand. It's not a handball, Marcelo. The laws say it's not. It's off his foot, man.
The law says it's not, but should it be is a completely different conversation.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I agree with Marcelo that should be a handball. That should be a handball in how we see the game, how it's played out in the future. I think that play should be called a handball. But
I think it's a big question as to how high is that arm and how unnatural is it. To me, he's trying to balance himself as he reaches to block, which is why it is natural. But that arm is pretty high. So if he had it any higher, like above the shoulder, then you're into the position of saying, okay, that has to be a handball. But now it's straight up semantics. So neither here nor there. What do you guys think about Nani's? We're going to blow away at hour 15. So what do you think about that Nani call?
It's not a red card.
I think it's a red card.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I think it is. It doesn't look terrible, but it's straight leg above the ankle, late from the side.
I've gone back and forth on this.
But it's not. There's no force to it, is what it feels like to me.
I think it's a hard yellow.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those hard yellow orange cards, but it's a yellow. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's a red.
The good thing though is that he will serve this suspension. He will serve the suspension on decision day, and they played a lot of games without him this year. It's sad not to see the purple cornrows on decision day presented by AT&T, but they'll get him back for the playoffs. So there is that.
The foot was so low. If you look at the moment in the game, it's not like he was an aggressor or like he was mad.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not a naturally dirty player. Like if someone threw an elbow and then you see like, okay, this is the reaction.
He comes back with it.
Right. But this was like in the run of play. I think whenever a referee is making a decision, you have to read the play and the game and the flow and the mentality of the play. You have to take all that into account.
You're saying take the temperature of the moment, and the temperature wasn't red. It was more yellow.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's fair.
It was a reckless tackle.
I think that's
so
fair.
This means Jackson Ewell also suspended this weekend, right? But then we'll be back for the playoffs?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yeah,
good.
the double yellow. Yeah, he'll be suspended and come back. That's huge for San Jose as well. Let's talk about these teams in the East. As I said, Montreal, Chicago, then Atlanta, Inter Miami, DC United, all under the line. I believe they all have routes in. They're reliant on results. If you're below the line, if you're above the line, you win and you go. DC host Montreal. Chicago host NYCFC. That is the toughest matchup outside Atlanta going to Columbus. And then Miami is hosting Cincinnati, which if they can't get 3 points out of that and put the pressure on the Impact and Chicago Fire, well, then you don't deserve to be anywhere close to the playoffs. And as I wrote this week, none of these teams deserve anything. They don't deserve a single thing. If you are out here begging and borrowing, sitting on 1 point per game in 8th, like 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th, 13th in the Eastern Conference, and the only reason you would ever get in is because it's a pandemic and the rules changed. Kayate, shut it. You don't get to talk like that. And I think the same thing about the Vancouver Whitecaps, though their case is dead and gone. Who's getting in for you guys? Who are the 2 teams that are going to make it? What's the scenario that you see playing out?
I think that Montreal draws DC. I think that Atlanta and Chicago lose, and I think Miami wins. And Montreal and Miami are the 2 that get in the end. The other thing I could see is DC beating Montreal. I don't see it. I don't see Atlanta winning at Columbus, no matter who Columbus puts out there. I don't see that as a reality with the way this team has played over the last month and a half, going to Columbus and the atmosphere that it's going to be. Chicago has the ability to beat NYCFC, but it still comes back to all of the things that they've done wrong week in and week out with them. So that's my bit. That's how I see it. That's the scenarios I see.
My big thing with the Crew is this isn't a game that they can throw away.
Yeah.
So that they won't. They want
Same
a
with
home
NYCFC.
game. Yeah, they want both of them. They're fighting for the same home game in the playoffs. So they can't just be like, you know what, we're going to take it easy. Right. And we don't know the schedule yet in the playoffs, so Jack Price had a little hint for us, I guess, there. We don't know exactly when these games are going to be played. But there is enough of a layoff that you don't have to think about rest at all. Mm-hmm. This is it. Like, come out, put out your best team, make sure you get a result. I think DC beats Montreal. Montreal's season has just been, I mean, it has to have been miserable for them, as it probably has been for all the Canadian teams. I just think they've run out of gas, and DC are hitting that sort of like form bump at the right time. So I think DC win, but then Inter Miami win, and Inter Miami have the tiebreaker, so Inter Miami push their way in because Chicago Fire are not beating NYCFC. They've shown too many times over the course of this year that they don't have what it takes to finish the job, and that is that's not like a take. That's just the reality of their entire season. So I have Miami, and I have
and DC.
Yeah, Miami and DC getting in.
Yeah. DC will be on 24 points. They'll jump Montreal and Chicago.
Right.
Yeah. It is going to be a chaotic.
I agree with you on that. I think DC beats Montreal. Montreal don't have a goalkeeper. Their back line is in shambles. They largely depend on Kyoto and now Boyan, who's been, I think, finally getting back to the Boyan that we all expected and hoped he'd be. One who can score.
You expected and hoped. You expected. We hoped.
I think it was both.
Okay, fair.
I want him to be at his best.
I know.
It's great for the league. It's great for everybody. But just not enough.
No, not enough. Guess who doesn't have any worries? I really mixed that together. Nashville SC don't have any worries.
No, they don't. They just parked the bus.
It's time to talk Nashville SC. We got the goalkeeper, Joe Willis, with us, an AT&T 5G call to the field. Joe, what's up, man? How's it going?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. We have Charlie here who's been talking, I'm not going to call it trash. I'm not going to call it slander, but he's been saying some things about the Nashville style of play. Before we get to that, though, there was a story that maybe I misremembered from way back in the day covering you with DC in Charleston. Pat Onstad said you had a soft spot for fast food that he had to cure you of. Am I misremembering that? Is that false?
I mean, I'll say that my eating habits were not great when I was first in the league. It took a little time for me to realize what being a professional soccer player really meant, but it wasn't so bad that it needed to be broken. I would say that.
Okay. All right. We'll have to go to Pat to get some clarification on that. But longtime starter in this league, doing your thing in Nashville. You guys defensively are handling business. Before we let Charlie dig in, tell me about this expansion experience from start to finish for you. Going to Nashville, having everything that's happened from tornadoes to COVID and everything else. What's it been like for Joe Willis?
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. This is my first time being a part of an expansion team, so I didn't really know what to expect. I figured there would be some bumps along the way, some learning curves for sure. But overall, I think it's been a really successful year for us. I think during preseason, when we started to put the team together and we started to see the personalities of certain guys start to come forth, I think we realized that we had a real chance of being successful this year. And I think things have kind of, although not everyone thought we were going to be successful this year, I think things kind of played out the way we expected.
Tell me about that. Hold on, Charlie. I'll let you get there. Okay. That little smile you gave us. I don't know if everybody thought. Like, you guys heard that, right? What did you hear, and what did you think when you're in the locker room hearing that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw all the people, Charlie included, saying that
it was me too. I'll claim that too. I'll claim that too.
Yeah, I mean, we heard the noise from the outside, but for the most part, we tried not to think about it. We knew internally what we were capable of, and we tried to just focus on that. And proving doubters wrong wasn't necessarily a goal of ours. It was more so just, we know what we're capable of. Let's go be successful. And for the most part, that's what we've done.
I feel like I play a key role in some of these performances across Major League Soccer, whether it's inspiring the locker room at Minnesota United, now Nashville. I'll take pride. I'll take pride in that. But let's get into Nashville and what makes you guys successful. How are you guys, able to pull off of these results? And to me, it seems like you park the bus. You defend first. You get 11 guys behind the ball. You make yourselves compact, you're organized, and then you counter teams and you're exceptional at set pieces. Is that fair to say? Is that how you go into every match saying, we just got to defend, do our job defensively, and everything else will come?
It's fair to say that that's how things have played out, but it's not necessarily our game plan. It's something that we've talked about a lot recently, especially that we don't want to be defending in our own, 30, 40 yards for the last 25, 30 minutes like we have been. Last night, for example, even though we ended up losing, I think we did a better job of trying to press higher up the field, trying to win the ball on better spots. But at the end of the day, I think from the very beginning of the season, we knew we were going to be strong defensively, and we knew that keeping clean sheets was going to be priority number one. And if we were able to do that, it would build a good foundation. It would give our team a chance to stay in games, and at the end of the day, hopefully take some pressure off of the attacking players to the point where they know that if they can score one, maybe two goals in a game, we have a good chance of winning or getting a good result out of it.
I agree with you on what you're talking about against FC Dallas, and I thought it was interesting. I'm curious from your point of view, how has Jonder Cadiz changed this team, and what's he like? What's it been like watching him work? You've seen him obviously much more than we have.
Yeah, he's a big, strong, physical player, but he's also got technical skills, and he can finish the ball very well. I think we haven't seen the best of him yet, for sure. But what we have seen is that he can give us a little spark when he comes in. He's a good target forward for us. And with the way that we've been playing, where it's been a little bit more defensively and then trying to break on the counterattack, he's been good holding the ball up and allowing us to try and get the rest of the team up the field a little more.
Have you been giving Walker Zimmerman beard maintenance tips?
Obviously not, because that thing is out of control. I think he needs to head to a salon pretty soon to get the hair and beard trimmed up. But
to a salon?
Yeah.
Was that the Joe Willis way? You went to the salon, or?
Oh no! This is all at home work.
Yeah,
DIY.
it's
usually my wife
kept.
does it, but
yeah, it's well kept.
I like it.
Can you talk about Walker Zimmerman this year? What he's done for your back line? Because a lot of people say it's easier when you can play with the ball in front of you for 90 minutes when you're defending as a team like the way you do. But he's been able to take it one step further and be impactful on all the restarts and scoring key goals for your club. Can you talk about his influence in the team?
Yeah, he's been massive for us. I think, it's not just his ability to defend, like you said, but his attacking prowess on set pieces has been huge and found us goals and results when we couldn't find it elsewhere. But I think the big thing about Walker is he obviously has the physical attributes and the technical skill set, but his personality and the intangible qualities, like the desire to keep clean sheets, that's something that not everyone has. And I think it goes a long way. He really takes pride in defending, and that's not something you see every day. I think that's pretty rare. So when you have the other qualities and you add in that intangible, like I said, it proves to be a model and a formula for success.
I want to ask you, and I know I'm not going to get the answer I want, but I'm going to do it anyway. You bring up Walker Zimmerman. We've talked about him on this show in a conversation for Defender of the Year. Your team is tied for least goals conceded. You have been a rock in the back. Should Joe Willis be in the conversation for Goalkeeper of the Year?
I don't know. That's not really up for me to decide. I think there's a lot of good goalkeepers in the league. A lot of some new ones this year and some old favorites. But it's nice to be a part of the conversation. But at the end of the day, that's for you guys to decide. And I think there's a lot of great goalkeepers. I think Andre Blake's had an incredible year, and I think Matt Turner's been great. I could go on and on with the list, but yeah, that's a tough one. But there's definitely a lot of good goalkeepers.
Good old humble Joe.
Yeah, I need to get the scouting report though from you as a goalkeeper, peer to peer on Matt Turner, because there have been fewer takes. Well, some of Charlie's takes get a good reaction, but Doyle's Matt Turner takes really bring out the people. Tell us about Matt Turner as another goalkeeper looking at his game and what he does.
I think first and foremost, he's an excellent shot stopper. And at the end of the day, that's the number one job for a goalkeeper, is to keep the ball out of the back of the net. I think in modern times, people get fixated on playing with your feet, hitting a beautiful side volley, this and that. But at the end of the day, if you can keep shutouts, if you can keep the ball out of the back of the net, I think your team's going to be pretty happy with you. And that's what he does so well. I think he's got great athleticism. I think he commands his box pretty well. I think he's got a lot of great attributes. And it's a funny one because he kind of flew under the radar. He didn't play very much for New England for a while. And then he kind of popped out of nowhere and just ran away with it. And it's as a goalkeeper, I enjoy seeing stories like that and seeing players who bide their time, put in the work, and then when they get their opportunity, they run with it.
When did you feel like you were ready, and how did you know?
Probably when I went to Houston was when I really felt like I was ready to take that next step. I think my 4 years in DC were great. I got some good playing time there and found a little bit of success. I got to train with Bill every day, who's an incredible goalkeeper. I got to train with Pat Onstad and Preston Burpo while I was there. So I think those 4 years were a bit of a learning process for me. And I kind of started to figure out what, like I said, being a professional soccer player is all about. And then when I made that move to Houston, I felt like it was really time to take that next step in my career.
We're doing the 25 greatest thing here, and I'm trying to figure out my ballot. And I think there are 3 goalkeepers have to be in the 25. As you look back on MLS history, the guys that you looked up to, the guys that you thought, man, they're special. Who would be the ones in MLS history that you really pick out and say, there's just something extra about them? They should be a part of consideration for a list like that.
Ramondo's got to be number one for me. I think it's crazy that he's never won the Goalkeeper of the Year award, if I'm correct, for the amount of work that he put into this league and the amount of trophies he won and just the impact he had on so many younger players, myself included. For me, he's number one. I think Tim Howard's obviously a legend. Didn't spend as much time in the league as some of the other guys, but his first few years in the league were incredible. And even when he came back with Colorado, he was great. So I think he's up for consideration. Pat Onstad, obviously. I think he has maybe 3 MLS Cups. And he's another guy who played till he was 40 and unbelievable.
You're missing an MVP. Player. You're missing an MVP.
Tony Miola.
Okay.
Is that who you're looking for?
Yeah. I was just throwing it out there.
Hey, is somebody on Sirius XM here? I forgot. I don't know.
I'm just looking out for my guys. That's all.
He can't be missing anyone if it's his own list. He gets to stay whoever he wants.
I know. I'm just saying. Hey,
I respect that. And to be fair, he won MVP. But to be honest, he was pretty much out of the league before I really started following MLS. So I didn't see him a ton. I think I saw more of him in World Cups than I did playing for Kansas City and New York Metro Stars. But an MVP alone for a goalkeeper, it's got to put him in consideration for one of the greatest of all time.
Times are gone, man. That's never going to happen again. When you think goalkeeper MVP, like my mind is boggled. I didn't start following the league till a little bit later after that. That seems just kind of crazy.
Andre Blake could have won. Andre Blake could have won for Philly if he didn't get injured.
You're off the Jonathan Mensah train now. I'm just
look at where the crew is now. It all depends where.
That was right when you started hyping him up, Charlie.
Yeah, I was the curse. But if the team who finishes at the top of the league, all right, the most important, impactful player for that team, who's number one, the clear number one in Major League Soccer, that player should be MVP. And that would have been Jonathan Mensah had Columbus Crew finished one. Now, if Philadelphia takes the Supporters' Shield, Andre Blake would be the clear MVP for me on that team.
Oh, Joe, now you know the path to an MVP. You just got to get Nashville to be Supporters' Shield next year.
Exactly. And you're not wrong, Charlie, but you got to give the people what they want, and they love goals. So
hey,
it's going to go to the top goal scorer.
I wish I was, look, maybe we should ask this to a defender, Joe, but I always think about outside backs. Since why we have the Continental Awards to honor people that don't get it from the traditional categories. Why don't outside backs get as much love as center backs? Why is it that we're always talking about Walker Zimmerman, but those guys on the outside just kind of like ho-hum, head down, no hype?
That's a great question, and I really don't know the answer. I think the outside back position is very understated. I think it's very underrated. Those guys can be, especially in the modern game where teams are asking their outside backs to get forward and join the attack so much more. The fitness levels of some of those guys is incredible. To be isolated on wings and have to defend 1v1, I think there are a lot of moments of the game where an outside back can make or break a game, and it really goes unnoticed. So I don't know why they're still overlooked, but I think that needs to be corrected.
We're here to change it. I'm just emptying my brain now. Who hits the heaviest shot in MLS?
Who hits the heaviest shot? Oh, man. That's a tough question. I mean, I've been seeing Yonder Cadiz hit some bombs lately.
Don't even try. Give us a player on an opposing team,
and we'll open it up. Shot. Like standing over a free kick, you're a little nervous. Gets that little space outside the 18. You're like, ooh, gonna have to stretch out for this one. Who gives you the willies?
Rito Ziegler hits a nice ball. He puts some whip on it. He puts a lot of pace behind it. So he's one that I don't like facing free kicks against. Trying to rack my brain for other guys around the league.
Yeah, but he's
right
on
now.
skates these days when he plays Nashville.
Yeah. Hey, you said it, not me. I don't know. There's some guys. Wando, I mean, he still bangs the ball. That goal he had last night was pretty nice. There's a few out there. Nani hits a wicked ball, so there's quite a few guys out there who can bang it.
Sorry, Dave. Did you have one? Or are we done?
No. You're good.
I got in the way, man. I just had.
This is a Weeby interview now.
All right,
wherever we are.
Guess that's it for us. Big thanks, Joe, for joining us. Actually, we do have one more. Come on, look toward the playoffs. Yeah, but you're always jumping in, Charlie. You're always jumping in.
Gas.
Nashville in the playoffs. What's the path to success? How do you guys get? I mean, you have to score goals to win games.
Two buses.
Charlie, respect the man.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, I think we keep doing what we're doing. The playoffs, especially now where it's a one-game format, anything can happen, and we all know that. So I think we're going in with a lot of confidence. I think we're going to keep the same mantra and the same attitude that we've had all season, which is we know internally what we're capable of, so let's go out and prove it. But I think, like I said, we have a lot of confidence going into the playoffs. I think we can be successful, and as long as we stay strong defensively, I think the goals will come.
Big test on decision day at Orlando for Nashville SC. We'll be watching, Joe. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Boy, Joe Willis is a good sport, huh? That was like a extra time therapy session right there. I'm gonna have to change my hand motions. I see Charlie's very, just a little bit. Just let me jump in. Just one little question. Charlie doesn't like being cut in front of. I understand that. It's a striker passing the ball in the box. Okay. Okay, let's get to the mailbag. But before we do that, U.S. men's national team roster is out. Everybody went crazy over this thing because you got like 10, 11 uncapped players. All the guys that get talked about on Twitter, all the guys that have their compilation reels going around are in this team, plus like the big three and everybody else. I'm just excited to see players with the crest on in a national team setup and a young team that seems to really like each other and have a real ambition about them as a group and are showing that from such an early age. So we don't know how it's going to work out in the long run, but it feels really good after everything that U.S. men's national team fans have been through. Charlie, what are your thoughts? And we'll get in the mailbag.
Yeah, I'm excited. Everybody wants to see the best group of young, talented players who are playing in Europe come together and get an opportunity to see what that looks like, where they're positioned, the formations, the tactics, how the interchanging works, the press. I'm excited, and they'll be playing against Gareth Bale. So that'll be quite the test because Gareth Bale seems to finally be coming into form too. So I'm pumped.
Greg Berhalter has to be absolutely elated He's been sitting around for a long time, twiddling his thumbs, planning, talking to players. Seems like he's used that time pretty well from a recruitment standpoint. We shall see. We got Wales and Panama. Those are the two games. We will get further into this once it gets a little bit closer and we get past Decision Day presented by AT&T. Remember, that's on Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, the first batch of games. The big one there is Philly fighting for the Supporters Shield on ABC. Then 6:30 p.m. Eastern is the Western Conference. There are pre, mid, and post-game shows on all the MLS channels. So tune in for ththose. 401-206-0MLS, extra time at MLSsoccer.com. That is how you get us in the mailbag. Release the Sporting KC Kraken on this man.
So
Bring
first
it.
of all,
And I'm playing a role right now, Charlie, because I don't believe in him that much. But you, sir, are a hater.
So first off, I want to say to everyone, Sunday will be chaos. If you want us to talk about something on Monday, hit us up because we're basically going to have to hit the whole league. So hit us up in the mailbag so we have it for you. I'm going to have to start doing Monday, Thursday mailbags because I got to take from Charlie on Thursday. I get an email for Monday, and then I got to wait another few days. So I got to start to figure that out. But here it comes if you are ready for it. So Isaac Wilsba says, first time writing in after listening for 6 years, but had to after the disrespect you showed my team last show. So this was last Thursday. Last show, you guys were talking about the top 5 teams in MLS right now. You said Philly, Toronto, Seattle, Columbus. For the last place, you didn't have much of an idea. Andrew suggested SKC, and Charlie was up in arms, started shouting, homeboy, which is ironic coming from a person that I had to listen to for minutes, wait hours, and ooh and ah about his precocious and precious Philadelphia and New England and DC that he played for. Philly does deserve it this year. I underestimate how sometimes you don't give SKC so much praise because we play like the best team in the league sometimes, but also the worst. Since Andrew's a sellout, really supports SKC, Dude, I will make the case. They are one of the hottest teams in MLS right now. In the last 7 games, this was before this week, they were 5-1-1. We all agree that it should be 5-2 with 2 ties and no loss in the Dallas game. Also, we've scored in every game this season except that Dallas game, which we should have, and a Vancouver game. This is exciting for this team because in the previous years, SKC is always hot midsummer until July when we start to slowly go down in the standings. But this year is the opposite. We are going up right before the playoffs, and that is why you will see us in MLS Cup. Quick question, Charlie Davies. Why do you hate SKC? Every time you talk about them or decide which team will win SKC, you choose the other one. Let the truth come out.
Okay. There's no hate because I don't hate anyone or hate any club. What I will say is SKC are the most overrated team in Major League Soccer. Overrated. Let's look at who they've played, okay? Now, I get it. You only can play who's on the schedule. But at the end of the day, you're beating Cincinnati. Colorado, you spank them 4-0, but they hadn't played.
Yeah.
Okay, they hadn't played in
It's been a month.
You tie 2-2 Chicago. You lose to FC Dallas. You beat Nashville, who had a red card, 2-1. You beat Chicago again, 1-0. You beat Dynamo 2-1, but then you lose to Orlando City at home 2-1, okay? And then before that, you lost to FC Dallas. That's who you're playing. You're not playing Seattle. You're not playing Portland. You're not playing Philly. You're not playing Orlando or New York, or you're not playing New York City FC. You're not playing Toronto. These are teams that you should be beating, and you're struggling to beat them at times. I'm never, ever going to bet on this Sporting Kansas City team in the playoffs with Fontas, Lindsay, Puncec, and Dia as your back line. That's just not happening. That's just not happening. And I give a ton of credit to Peter Vermees for getting this team in the position that he's done, considering this is the lineup. And it's almost a little bit of a turnover because you're leaving Matt Beasler behind. You're Graham Zusi behind. You're some of these players who have been staples with this club for so long, and you have to go through that transition. This was that year. And Polito, when he's been on, has been great, but he's dealt with injuries. He's had to go away for the national team. With all that being considered, I think Peter Vermees has done a great job of putting this team out and getting results. But that's where it stops. This isn't a team that's destined for MLS Cup. So let's stop all that talk, because when they have to play Portland and Seattle, they're not going to get those results. It's not going to look as pretty because the defense is not as strong as it needs to be to get there.
I mean, the one thing in that mail, which I thought,
wow.
I thought you were going to come at me a little bit more, which I'm glad you didn't. I'm laying back in the cut, letting you do your thing. But he did not mention the person who wrote in, did not did not mention, just a little thing, he didn't mention anything about the back line, and that is the problem. I think that this team, in a shootout scenario where it's just like, hey, balls to the walls, let's see what happens, like, I don't know, against, say, like a San Jose Earthquakes team, they can tear teams apart, but they can be torn apart. There is a lot of space. There's a lot of inconsistency on that back line, not just at center back, across the back line. It's been in and out, depending on who it is. Martin's at left back, or now it's Lindsay at right back, who's improving but still makes youthful mistakes. I think the big key for them, Ilie Sanchez, who's been inconsistent for the standard that he had set for himself in this league, and Roger Espinoza. Because like Kinda, Russell, Polito, Shelton, Gerso Fernandez, they will produce for you.
Yes, I agree.
One of those, especially if Polito's on, he will bring the other guys into play, and he's dangerous himself. They will produce. They will score goals. But if they're down 2-0, if they're down 1-0, if the game state's not right, if the backline's just getting torn to shreds, it won't last. It won't last because it's only 90 minutes, and they've got to win, what, three games in a row to get there? I'm not sure that this team has that, especially since they haven't been tested.
Proud of you.
So I get everything you're saying. Let me give you the pushback. I don't think there's a team in the West that does have a backline you'd bet on. Maybe Seattle, and that's it. And so it might be 2-2. What?
You wouldn't bet on Portland's backline?
No. Look at what happened last night. Kellen Acosta ripped Tuiloma.
It's Tuiloma.
Fine, but I still don't trust Mabiala. I still don't trust any of them individually.
It's 34 goals allowed. 34 goals allowed is like third worst in the West field.
And the level you're talking about at the top of the Eastern Conference. So I think there's a chance that the MLS Western Conference playoffs could be shootouts. And if that's what's happening, then SKC's good enough.
We'll see. All right, that's it for us. Decision day on Sunday. So watch that. 3:30 p.m. Eastern, it starts. ABC, the Union trying to get the Supporters Shield. Then stick with us all through the end. We will analyze everything at the end of the night and set up the Audi MLS Cup playoffs. Make sure you go look out and set your bracket as well. Get into that. With that, we're out of here. Enjoy your day, everybody. Nothing to be anxious about. No anxiety. No nervousness. Nothing to be waiting on. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you.